Hello, good morning, and welcome to the live stream, the broadcast. This is Carmen Andrea Harris, creator of Redefining Widowhood. I am a certified grief counselor and a certified life coach. I'm also a minister to widows. So, on this broadcast, we're going to be talking about creating new habits after loss. And this is spontaneous because I am literally just coming out of my private prayer and devotional time with the Lord. And I was thinking about, well, what am I going to talk about today on the podcast? And it just dropped in my spirit. Talk about creating new habits after loss. Those of you who are listening to this, you're on the journey of widowhood. You're at different junctures on this journey. You may be just a few weeks out, a few months out, less than a year. You may be a few years into your journey. And just me, from the perspective of being on this journey for 5 years, I am learning to give myself grace and learning that my habits and my desires and the things that I aspire to do and my self work and how I decide to work on myself will change in and out of season. I remember in the beginning of my widowhood, like literally the first few months, it was almost as if I was just, and these are words from another fellow widow sister who found me on YouTube and we connected in real life because we were in the same state. But she said, you were just kind of flowing with God in your videos. And I remember in those beginning times when I was broken before the Lord. Like, it sounds cliche when people say, that's the best position for you to be in when you're broken before the Lord. That's the best position for him to use you. And that is the truth. In the beginning of my widowhood, I was so broken before the Lord. And when I was broken before him in that way, I was as the Bible speaks of, I was soft and I was pliable and I was able to be used and molded by him. And I was very sensitive to his voice, although, I hear the voice of the Lord. But in those beginning stages, like I heard him loud and clear. I would post different things on Facebook, just sharing intimate parts of those beginning days of widowhood. And it wasn't me oversharing or trying to garner attention. It was literally me just flowing with the Spirit of God on the inside of me and sharing my journey. So in the beginning, my habit was to just be an open book and a living epistle, if you will, for the glory of God as I walked through the darkest season of my life, the death of my husband, the death of the father of my children, and just not knowing whether I was coming or going. So that was my journey in the beginning. And then I started the YouTube channel in March of 2019, which was just shy of 3 months after my husband dying. So that created a new habit for me. And for me, that was therapy because I didn't have anybody around me to guide me through widowhood, especially widowhood at the age of 38 with two small children. Like, my family and friends, they love me very much, but they couldn't walk me through the journey. They couldn't minister to me on the journey. They couldn't counsel me through my grief. They couldn't coach me through life as a newly widowed mom with children. So I hit record on YouTube and I just started sharing my heart. I started sharing my frustration. I started sharing my fears. And in doing that, I began to attract other women who were on the same journey. So that became my habit. And then I was able to get my strength and my bearings back because I always have been a naturally ambitious woman. I was a teacher for many years. I got my master's while I was teaching. So I was always ambitious. And then when I could no longer teach anymore, I stumbled into the field of entrepreneurship with the writing and self-publishing of my first book around 2014, 2015. I started writing a book in 2014 and then I published it in 2015. So just stumbling upon entrepreneurship, writing and self-publishing my first book, having to market it. And then when I was finished with the book, I got into internet marketing and network marketing, affiliate marketing. And right before my husband died is when I was in the space of what I like to call a digital education strategist. I was teaching via video marketing. I began to fall in love with video marketing, and I was teaching about branding, and I was tiptoeing into the field of like life coaching for women, because I remember a few months before my husband died, I created my first micro coaching system, which was called the 5 Day Clarity Challenge. So in that, I was able to, create myself. But right after widowhood, my first habit was getting on to YouTube every day. And, then I became a certified life coach. I wrote and self published my second book again. So then I was clearer on what I was doing in the space of widowhood. I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be coaching women. Then I got connected with my widowed best friend. We were extremely close for exactly 1 year and 1 day, and then she suddenly died. And that created a new grief for me and a new loss for me. And it created just another season of me having to pick myself up again after being knocked down and create a new habit. And with that, I kind of fell into a slump. And then shortly after that, I got reconnected to fitness again, because one of the companies that I was in network marketing, it was a health and wellness company. So as a way for me to truly begin to live the lifestyle and not just be promoting products and trying to get people to sell products, I started working out. This is when my girls were really little. I would take them to the gym with me at the apartments that we were living in. So after my widow best friend died, and I was like, okay, like, what am I going to do now? Like, I need to do something with myself so that I don't fall into this slump of grief and depression and not doing anything when I have been, striving to do well, and I was doing well. So I got back onto like my fitness kick, and I had been working out a little bit because that was like around 2020 when I first met her, and the pandemic had hit and people were kind of locked up in the house. So I was beginning to work out again, and then after she passed away is when I started really working out, and I connected with the local fitness community, and I would go, and the person I connected with, she actually was a widow too, in my same state, not too far from me, in a county below me. And I would go to her house and we would work out. And so that became my habit again. And that, I'm just giving you examples of how you're going to have to consistently recreate yourself and create new habits on the journey of widowhood, so that you are able to find a way to move forward, so that you are able to find purpose in continuing to live without your person. So I got into the whole the fitness flow and all of that, um was doing good. And then the girls and I, we moved to a new state. Like, we stayed in Florida for a bit of time, a little bit longer than I expected. And then we were finally able to move back to Georgia, which, moving to a new place, I was like, okay, I'm back home, because I consider Georgia home, even though I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida. I'm back home. Like, what am I going to do now? Like, what do I do now? And I remember reaching out to one of my spiritual mentors, and she was like, okay, now that you're back home, you need to pick up where you left off and prosper. So, um, while I moved back home, what I did, a new habit that I created, or a new pursuit that I took on, was I picked up where I had left off at with grief counseling. Because when my widow best friend was alive, and we were, she was my confidant, she was my best friend, she was the one who was walking alongside me, and she would encourage me like, Carmen, you are meant to help widows. Like, she knew she wasn't called to widows. She actually had a very large ministry for wives, but she would always encourage me on the days that I would want to quit, because on this journey, especially when you're called, when you have a calling by God to minister to a certain group of people, to pour into them, to help them, and there are times where you feel like you're not needed, or you're not appreciated, or like, okay, God, what am I really supposed to be doing with these people? And I think about it all the time. When God has called you to a place, it's similar to pastors. And I can kind of, I'm not going to say I know exactly how pastors feel, but I can imagine how they feel just pouring their all. The pastors that have clean hands and pure hearts, that are safe spaces. and true shepherds called by God, I can understand how they get weary in their well doing, and they may get depressed, and they may feel sad because they're doing what the Lord has called them to do. They're pouring into these people, they're loving onto these people, and the people are seemingly not appreciating it and not looking at them as like humans. Like, I could understand that, and I would get frustrated at certain journeys and junctures on the journey, because I knew God had called me to this space of widowhood. But it was like, okay, God, like, am I just supposed to be like a motivational speaker in this space? Or like, am I supposed to really be helping these women to work through their grief, work through their healing, and be able to live again and repurpose their pain the same way that I have? Because even in my widowhood, like, I've always been ambitious. Like, I didn't lose my ambition, I didn't lose my fight to get back up. So those were the types of women that I was wanting to connect with. So when I connected with my late widow best friend, she was such a breath of fresh air, because yes, she was widowed, she was sad, but she was also determined to do her ministry. She was determined to find a hobby or a business to push forward. So on those days when I got frustrated, she would encourage me to move forward. So while she was around, and she was thinking about what she was going to do, maybe going back to school. And I was like, well, I think I want to become a certified grief counselor. So I had started the first class of grief counseling while she was alive, but then I put the class down because I knew that I wasn't ready to pursue that yet. I was still at a place in my grief journey to where it wasn't time for me to do that. So fast forward to when the girls and I were able to move back home to Georgia, a little over a year now. I think it's been that we've been back here, but I felt the Lord calling me to pick back up the grief counseling again. So that was a new habit that I created. That was something that I could focus my mind on and purpose myself to do. So I picked it back up. I had actually sat on the course for the first class, because there were 4 classes for the initial certification. I sat on the first class for over 2 years. I let it expire. I picked it back up, the first class, and within 2.5, 3 months, I had finished the entire certification. So that was a new habit that I was able to create and to focus on, because again, on this journey, you're going to have to continue to create new habits. You're going to have to continue to set new goals and aspirations to work towards, not just to achieve something, not as busyness, but so that you are able to find purpose in still being here. And so that you are able to put your hands to the plow that God is calling you to. Because if He still has you here, if you still have breath in your body, then you still have a purpose. And I know that's one of my purposes, is to not just get on here and minister to you through your grief, or to give you tips for healing. But one of my purposes is for those of you who feel connected to me, to coach you in a official capacity, because I am a certified life coach, a certified grief counselor, but to coach you and to help you to rebuild your life and to rediscover the purpose for why the Lord still has you here, so that you can create your community or your brand or your business. And I'm not saying that everybody is called to create a community for widows. And I don't even look at redefining widowhood as necessarily a community by itself. This is a full on ministry that the Lord has called me to. And with ministry, I know that you should have been called by the Lord when you start a ministry. Like, in this day and age now, you see certain people using the term ministry loosely, and people are teaching you how to build and brand a ministry. But I really feel like with ministry, like, that's something that the Lord will call you to and lead and guide you to do. So redefining widowhood, it is a community, but most importantly, at the foundation, it's a ministry. Okay. It's a ministry. And then I also offer life coaching and grief counseling, because that is what I do. That's what I'm certified as professionally. So just pursuing the grief counseling at the beginning of last year, that was another habit that I created. So now that I'm in a fresh new year, and just, I don't know if you guys have been feeling it also, but just crossing over into this new year, I didn't feel like it was a new year. I had this very just bland type of feeling crossing over into the new year, like, okay, God, is this going to be like the same as last year? because although I did accomplish getting the grief counseling certification last year just was not what I was expecting it to be and what I would have hoped it to be. So I had a bit of hesitancy crossing over into this new year. And I even was feeling it really heavy at the end of last year. And for me, when I feel myself feeling a certain type of way, where I feel stuck, where I feel stagnant, I just don't stay in that place. Like, I'm the type of person where I'm going to do something. I'm going to shake up the monotony so that I can break through. So that is why I even started the whole 21-day podcast thing, because I was feeling very stagnant. I was feeling very stuck. I was feeling very unclear of like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Do you even want me to continue forth with redefining widowhood? What is my purpose here? What purpose am I serving here? I know that you didn't just call me to this place to be a motivational speaker to widows. Like, where are the women that I'm supposed to be coaching and counseling? Like, there has to be more to this, because I know what you've told me and what you have spoken to me. So that's why I did the 21-day podcast, because I wanted to shake up the monotony and just get into action so that I wouldn't stay stagnant. So crossing over into this new year, I didn't feel anything. And I know, you don't have to feel anything going into a new year, but a lot of times people are kind of hopeful, they're kind of excited, not in the beginning of widowhood, but once you've gotten to a place in your journey where you're beginning to live again, a new year, I feel like, should be exciting for the most part. But I didn't feel that. I just felt like kind of bland and uncertain, like, Lord, is this going to be the same year? So in this year, creating a new habit for this year, what I have been doing, because I understand that, we have to implement practical things daily, especially when we're on a journey of continued healing and rediscovering ourselves and rebuilding our lives and learning how to live again. So what I've been doing thus far, we're 15 days into the new year, and I didn't start this until like the 4th of this month, because my mom was here. She didn't go back to Florida until the 3rd. So my whole schedule was thrown off just with her being here. But since the 4th, my alarm has been set for 4:30 a.m. because my day is not right unless I spend quiet time with the Lord and quiet time with myself. Because those of you who have been following me for a while, I have two children. I have two younger children. They're not really small anymore. They're actually growing up super fast, but I have two small children. So when I'm able to get up and the house is still quiet, it just gives me a great sense of like peace, and just a great sense of being able to conquer my day, so to speak, and really be able to tackle the goals and the things that I've set for myself. So I have been getting up, and this is on the topic of creating new habits after loss. I have been getting up. My alarm goes off at 4:30. Um, for the most part, I jump up out of bed at 4:30, or I may hit snooze for 5 or 10 minutes. At that 10-minute mark, I'm like, okay, let me get up. So I have been up before 5 a.m. in my prayer corner, sitting quietly before the Lord, praying, reading my Bible, journaling, and just getting clear on what it is that He wants me to do in this season. And it just prompted me today when I was thinking about, okay, like, what should I talk about today? And I just wanted to talk about creating new habits after loss. Like, there is power in you creating new habits after loss. Yes, there's going to be that period where you're grieving. Like, you're no good. You're just grieving. That was me. Like, well, that my healing journey has been supernatural, so to speak. But you may be in a space where you're newly widowed, you don't want to do anything. However, when you get to a space and a place where you've made a decision that, okay, this is horrible what happened to me, I'm going to embrace my grief, but I'm also going to begin to heal, and I want to live again. Once you get to that place and you've made a decision in your head, one of the most powerful things that you can do is begin to create new habits. You don't have to, jump out of the gate like me, like, oh, I'm going to wake up at 4:30. I'm going to get into prayer with the Lord for an hour. Then I'm going to work out, because I recently joined a new fitness community as well. And I've been going consistent. I've worked out 10 days this week. I work out during the week, not on the weekend. So that's another habit that I'm getting back into the flow of. But when you make a decision, you don't have to take on a million things at one time. Okay. When you decide that you want to begin to create new habits after loss, just create 1 to 3 small daily goals. For example, one of your goals could be, okay, now that I feel like I'm in a clearer headspace, I'm going to make up my bed every day. You can literally set a goal to make your bed up every day, to take a shower every day, because in the beginning stages of widowhood, you may not even remember to shower. That may not even be on your mind. I understand. I get it. So you can set small goals. Make your bed up every day. Take a shower every day. And then the third thing, put on some clothes and make yourself look good. When you look good, you feel good. No, I'm not saying you have to do this every day, because if you saw me in real life walking around, I look like a bummy billionaire. Like, you'd be like, oh my God, is that you, Carmen? But when you do actually put on some clothes, you'll feel better. Those are just some examples of some new habits that you can create. Another habit you can create is setting your alarm for maybe 30 minutes to an hour before your children get up. And you may not even have the strength to pray and to read your Bible yet. You may not have the desire. You may be in a season where you just are like mad at God and you want nothing to do with him. I understand that as well. But another example of a goal is you could set your alarm 30 minutes to an hour before your children get up and just sit in silence. There's power in sitting still and sitting in silence. Yes, you're going to begin to think and you're going to begin to feel, and the grief may arise, but it's something powerful as well in just sitting in silence and in quiet. Initially, during my prayer time, I would turn on like some prophetic instrumental music. But now, lately, me entering into my prayer time, I have been sitting completely quiet before the Lord. No instrumental music, no music, just literally sitting and getting quiet, because there's so much noise, there's so much distraction, in the outer world as well as on the inside of us. So that's just something I've been doing. But I just wanted to share with you just the power of creating new habits after loss. It definitely will aid in your healing journey. It will help you to learn how to begin to live again, because a lot of you are still figuring out life. You don't even know how to live again, much less do anything else. So I hope that this podcast, this is episode 23. This is the second podcast of the new year, 2024. We've been in the Hebrew year 5784 since September, those of you who acknowledge that. But the new Western year, the Gregorian year, this is the second podcast of that year, podcast number 23. So I just wanted to share with you some tips on creating new habits after loss. I hope that this has proved helpful to you. I am accepting clients. If you know that you want to work with me, if you feel connected to me, if you want help rebuilding your life after loss, if you want help finding and creating a pathway for joy, I am accepting new clients. I have a life coaching program and I also have a grief counseling program. I would love to help you along the way of the journey. Listening to, the videos that I put out, it's amazing. But working with me on a one-on-one capacity is really going to help you to create a lifestyle of healing and to be able to entertain the thought of living again and to be able to actually move forward and walk that out and understand what that looks like for you, because each of our journeys are individual. So again, I invite you to click the link in the description box to learn more about the programs that I offer in the space of life coaching and grief counseling. If you're catching this on the replay, which the majority of you are, because it's super duper early, it's 7:30ish here Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what time it is where you're at or when you'll be listening to this, but I hope you got value out of this. I would love to work with you all in this season. I'm looking forward to connecting with those of you who have been wanting to work with me. You're supposed to work with me privately. You've been on the fence or you've been in disobedience to God because he's told you to work with me. I'm looking forward to working with you all, and I hope you have an amazing day today. I speak blessings and prosperity and peace and healing over you in Jesus' name.